At some point, I held a meeting with the entire anime industry, and I made a demand. A demand that at least one show every single season must be a sugar show. A sugar show, a fluffy show, a cute show full of cute characters doing fun stuff. Yeah, have a little bit of heart in there, here and there, but the main focus is to make sure that something brightens every single one of my weeks. And yes, in the season of fall 2023, that is easily Stardust Telepath. This show is so sugar sweet. I love it. I love everything about it. It's super cute. Well, yes, having a little bit of wholesome in there, having these little difficulties the characters are going with. Essentially going the route of things like Hitori Bochi, where you have a extreme introvert, somebody that is having a lot of struggles with socializing, and then having her kind of being pulled out of that into the bright light, in this case by an alien. Cue the Men in Black references. But yes, I just watched the first 2 episodes of the series. I'm already in love, and this is my thoughts on it, so let's just jump right into it. Stardust Telepath opens up with a girl named Umika Konohoshi, and she is just starting her high school years, and yes, she has a lot of difficulties in socializing. She feels that nobody can hear her communicate, mainly because she doesn't really open her mouth. She feels like an alien on Earth, that nobody around her is her same kind, that nobody can speak to her. And of course, looking into different species and looking into aliens specifically, she discovers that aliens can communicate telepathically. And she's thinking, well, if I can't speak my words, it seems like aliens are the better option for me. I wish I was with the aliens. I wish I can go up in space, leave Earth, where I feel like I'm not included, where I feel like I'm out of place, and go and be with the aliens. So she always wishes that one day she could meet aliens. Well, just so happens a new transfer student comes in, and her name is Yu Akeuchi, and she is, by her claims, an alien. We see this little brief shot of her supposedly waking up in this lighthouse, and she doesn't really know her past. She even admits to Umika that she has no recollection of her past. She knows that she's an alien, that she was sent here for some reason. She has some mission here, but she's forgot it. But eventually, she's going to have to return back into space, but while she's there, she wants to learn more about the humans, so she quickly gravitates to Umika, kind of drags her into her kind of energy. There's one early commonality in the idea that Umika, wanting to meet aliens and be with the aliens, has spent a lot of her time looking into different literature and stuff like that. And one is pretty much this book on languages for aliens. So it has like a full-on dictionary of translations for alien speech. And Yu actually has pretty much memorized the whole thing, doing greetings and stuff like that with, you know, alien speech that's just complete gibberish. They have this whole moment where she's just going, people, people. And then she says, Mavalavu. I was always completely thought it was a Muv-Love reference, but it was great. It was cute. But yeah, there was one other interesting thing is that, yes, obviously you realize that Umika doesn't really speak at all. And so Yu claims that she has the ability to, you know, read people's thoughts. So she places her forehead upon Umika, and she can sense what she's going through, the insecurities that she has and all these struggles that she's going through, and she's vocalizing it. She's like, yeah, you have this feeling, which immediately makes Umika believe, oh, this might actually be an alien. I finally met an alien, somebody that I can communicate with technically because she's able to read my thoughts. Following this whole situation, yes, Umika really badly wants to communicate to you, wants to get to know her more, wants to meet her and everything. She ends up writing down like her entire greeting that she's going to do to you, you know, like, hey, my name is this, I want to do this, my dreams are to go into space and all this kind of stuff. And she's struggling constantly with trying to vocalize that to you. And as you kind of drags her around to go look at different places, eventually Umika finally speaks up, just tells her everything that she's been thinking. And she's finally able to connect to you. And this really pleases you. Like, oh, finally, I got to hear your voice. You finally said what you want to do. Your dreams of meeting aliens is great. Come back to my place. Drags her all the way to the lighthouse where Yu is apparently staying at. Tells her about how the fact that she's traveled there and she's lost her memory. She doesn't know where her mission is. And she wants to know more about this place. And through this, kind of creating this really strong bond between the two of them. We'll cut forward the next day. Umika is now desperately trying to figure out how can they get to space? How can she help you now that she has somebody that has the same goal as she does? She wants to obviously follow through with that. It seems like Yu has such dedication, she doesn't want to slack off. So she's looking on the internet, trying to figure out ways to make rockets. Of course, she's finding like every type of rocket except for an actual space rocket launchers and kids' toys and stuff like that. And eventually, yes, the results that she ends up getting from Google is that She's not going to be able to do this. This takes a lot of planning to make a space rocket, obviously. But she doesn't let that keep her down. She ends up kind of finding a solution, a step forward process, and the first option is to make bottle rockets. And as she's going to present this to you, eventually she realized that you just kind of connects with everybody. Everybody's very social to her. She's very outgoing, and everybody loves her. Everybody's starting to actually talk in alien speech, and she's able to kind of reply to them. And eventually we have the introduction of the class president, which is Haruno. And Haruno actually seen them going to this lighthouse. As we kind of find out later on, she's kind of a nut with stuff like this. And Umika the entire time is afraid of bringing this up because she's afraid that Haruno will discover that Yu is actually an alien, and then Yu's going to get captured by the government and dissected and everything, so that kind of creates a lot of fears for her, but she ends up finding out that Haruno is actually a really good person. And what this kind of wraps up with the second episode is kind of this perspective of as they create this first bottle rocket and they shoot it off, and there's this conversation between Umika and Haruno. Umika eventually realizes how different the two of them are, and that Haruno sees aliens differently than she does. Like, if there was actual presence of aliens, Haruno would love the idea of bringing them in and showing them the beautiful things of this world, the beautiful people of this world. Whereas Umika's reply to that whole scenario is the idea that she just wishes that she can leave behind this world. She doesn't like this world. She can't communicate to this world. It's an oppressive world that she doesn't want to be with. She wants to leave with the aliens. But as she shares this encounter with all three of them shooting off this bottle rocket, this weight upon her heart kind of just clears up. This prickling sensation in her chest just melted away instantly, kind of gaining this camaraderie with people around her, seemingly slowly changing her a bit. But yeah, that's how they wrap up the first two episodes. My thoughts on this series. First of all, I think it looks great. Visually, it looks really great. The chibi characters for the comedy bits are really cute. The character designs themselves are fantastic. Everything about the design and the visuals and the presentation is really beautiful. Kick in with the music itself for the dramatic beats. Presentation-wise, the show is really, really good. It's kind of what I expect from any sugar type shows. It's not like a crazy action show or anything like that. It's just when it has those emotional beats, it just nails it. And this show is just pulling it off. As for the characters themselves, I absolutely adore Umika. She is super, super cute. Again, it kind of plays into that whole idea of something like Hattori Bochi, the introvert. Yeah, you can say Bochi the Rock, but that's kind of going for something completely different. It is this idea of somebody that is just struggling with communicating with people. They're introvert, they're not very social, they just have those difficulties in speaking out. And so it kind of creates that, yes, like a lot of these shows, that sense of you're on the sidelines rooting for her. You can do it, Umika, you can speak out. You read the lines that you have, you wrote them down, you did a good job, now read them out. It just gives you that sense of like, must protect, smile, must see her happy kind of instinct that kind of builds up inside of you. And they're definitely pulling that off. Just seeing her flustered, seeing her trying to force herself to speak out, like especially with the whole situation with Haruno, and the idea that she's afraid that Haruno is going to reveal the secret about Yu. Now, granted, everybody in the school seemingly knows that Yu believes that she's an alien. This is not a secret. But obviously there's that doubt of like, well, is she really an alien? Is most people just kind of playing along with it and not really believing it? That's the kind of mindset that it's creating. But again, Umika is seriously believing, oh crap, Haruno may actually reveal this. Our whole secret base in the lighthouse might get revealed, and then she'll get dissected. And that forces her to finally push it out. And it was kind of similar to the situation with her first talking to you and speaking out to her. It's just something that kind of pushes her, I have to speak up. And it seems like that, we'll see with the third episode, it seems like that's something that is kind of fading away from her. And then this idea that she finally realized how much fun she's having with the other two of them, that something inside of her is kind of changing. And I like seeing that slow growth of her character, of slowly coming out of that. And yes, a lot of that has to do with Yu. Yu is literally the polar opposite of her. This is somebody that's very vocal, okay with talking to people about what she is. Because while Umika has that fear of saying that she's into aliens and that she's reading about aliens, she's been pretty much traumatized by that in the past. People laughing at her about that. Whereas Yu, she's running around saying people, and movu. She doesn't care. Like, she's just telling everybody about this great language and how she's an alien and everything like that. Which, yes, obviously creates the question. Is Yu actually an alien? That's going to be the massive question mark. Is it a reality thing, or is it just something that she's deluding herself with? And I honestly don't know how heavy this series will get. There's a lot of series like this where it is a soft, fluffy show, but there's kind of this ongoing tension of something serious. And I really do feel like they've sort of been doing that with Umika. It becomes an overcoming thing, which is a very satisfying thing that these types of stories do. But will it get into something extremely serious with you? I mean, I can see it going in a lot of different directions. The idea that, yeah, maybe she is an orphan. She ran away from the orphanage. But how did she get into the school is going to be the question mark. It does technically play into this being a possible reality, and the idea that what if she is technically an alien? She arrived there. She used her alien powers to, infiltrate the school and everything like that. There's a possibility there. I don't know that this is going to get that direction. I think what they're trying to do is create almost a magical sense in the world itself that is created by the characters. Like the whole idea of you reading her mind, using her powers to read what Umika is thinking. I think in most situations like that, it's simply that she's reading Umika. She can sit there and look at Umika and say, yeah, you're feeling uneasy. Well, let me read your mind. Taps her forehead and goes, yeah, you're obviously uneasy. You can read a person just by their physical appearance. And yes, Umika is kind of an open book. Like, you can literally see what she's going through. And so there is a side of me that kind of believes that it's not going to be that she is an alien. Just simply the idea that she's reading Umika. And it could be simply an idea where, yes, maybe she's a transfer student. Maybe her parents are somewhere else and she came there to, go to school there. Maybe her parents are abroad. And maybe she created this delusion herself. And she just left the home that the apartment she's supposed to be staying at, and she's just living in a lighthouse instead. And it could be an aspect of maybe, yes, that's an aspect where she did move there to go to school there, and maybe she fell near the lighthouse, bumped her head, and lost her memories. There's a lot of different routes this can go, and I'm more leaning to the idea that this is just a delusion of childhood. These kids are just kind of wrapped up in this delusion, and you really believes it. And I think that's where they'll go, and I'm curious if that will get into something heavy. And the idea that, will it just be a aspect of her creating this facade, this delusion, and then eventually realizing that it's not true, gets her memories back, and then she goes, sorry, Umika, I promised you this one thing, I was lying to you, technically. I think that's probably where they could go, and I'm curious of what kind of story that will end up creating. But yeah, Yu is super cute, super fun, really like it. Obviously, this show seems to be implying and leaning towards the route of it being a possible Yuri-type show, and it definitely feels like that's kind of creating that. Honestly, Umika, when she's around other girls, it seems like she does have a fondness. There is a little bit of a sparkle that's happening whenever she does meet people. Even with Haruno, she has these moments where it kind of seems like she gets a strong bond connection, which could be friendship, something that she's never really faced before. But it does seem like definitely leaning to the idea of Yu possibly being a love interest for her. I'm not sure if they'll end up going the Yuri route. I think I've seen some people claim that it was labeled as a Yuri, which I'm all for. They're super cute together. Like I said, technically Yu and Umika sort of accent each other. They're polar opposites, and they sort of support each other. And I think that could be something that can lead into something really great, because Umika technically is the only one that, for reals, seems like she fully 100% believes that Yu is an alien. I think even Haruno, it seems like at the end of the second episode, is really implying this idea of, do you think it's true? What if it was true? She's playing that scenario of, yeah, there's a possibility that she's actually an alien. And what would you think of that? What would you do if that was actually real? So it doesn't seem like Haruno is 100% sold on it, but again, Umika seems to be. There's even that sadness in the idea that she has that insecurity that if she doesn't speak up, if she doesn't greet Yu properly, that Yu's going to get tired of her and walk away like everybody else does. But it obviously seems like Yu is more gravitated towards Umika because she seemingly understands her. And that could be the idea that she knows how to read her, or simply that, yes, she is an alien and that she can read her mind and knows that she's suffering. That's that hug in the first episode. Oh, it was so good. It's like we rarely ever get characters actually embrace or even touch each other. And to see this really rare moment where a character just embraces somebody, like a full-on hug, it's like, oh, I love it. I love it. That whole scene on the rooftop was just, it was super special. It was just super special. It just kind of completely brightened my day. I think my only negative, if you drug a negative out of me for these first two episodes, it would probably be around Haruno. I like her. She's cute, but she's kind of, her shtick seems to be the idea of getting like overly serious about things. That seems to be her joke. When she thinks about something and suddenly she goes into this big, long speech about how it would be great to do this and this and this and this. And it's just, it kind of is a little bit annoying, but it's not like ruining the show or anything. It's like that's something you have to really drag out of me. Other than that, I have just absolutely been adoring the show. It's super cute. It's just got everything going for it that I am absolutely eating up. I was almost tempted to do a first impressions of the first episode because I was loving it that much, but I'm like, let's give it another episode. But yeah, that's my thoughts. My thoughts on the first 2 episodes of Stardust Telepath. Definitely highly recommended if you're looking for that sugar show of the season, that show of a character you want to root for, a show that kind of melts your heart, just has a lot of warmth in it. It's definitely the show for you. I don't think there's really any other like super sugary shows this season. I mean, there's fun shows, there's comedies, and there's all that whatnot, but this is that one that's serving that particular purpose. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure that like button down below, comment, let me know what you think of the series so far if you're going to be checking it out. Additionally, if you're new to the channel and you like this content, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you get all my content. I news, reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support it more, I have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.